Hi, Sagittarius. Welcome to your January 2019 Astro Update. It's Rena here. And in January, there is a lot of connection early on to that second house of earned income because the sun is in Capricorn for the first 3 weeks of the month. And Capricorn is the sign after you, after us, since I'm a Sag too. And so the focus is on finances. And on the 4th, Mercury joins Capricorn in that second house. Mercury is the mental energy that you are spending, pardon the pun. And you are really maybe crunching numbers. How do things add up? I was kind of thinking back to throughout my life, whether or not this period of time connected to an increase in income. Because for me, since the sun is in Sagittarius, this is my solar chart. And you have a solar chart and you have a natal chart. Your solar chart is based on your sun sign, and the natal chart is based on the rising sign, which requires the time of birth. And I have found that the natal chart for my finances has been something I can really see the connection to, draw those connections. And, every year, you're going to have the sun in that second house at this time. Every year, you're going to have a new moon in Capricorn, and that falls in the second house. Now, my feeling is that if you are listening to this for your sun sign, I want you to reflect back to this time of year. If you tend to get more money, if it tends to be a good time financially for you, because you may notice patterns throughout your life where certain times seem really good for making money over others. Maybe it was the time when you got high, you tend to get a new job or just receiving gifts that you didn't expect. Obviously Christmas is at a time when Capricorn, the sun is in Capricorn, but I'm talking about besides that. And so my feeling is that the rising sign and the natal chart can really hone in on mundane events like earning money. And the solar chart to me is more aspirational. So if you're listening to this and your sun is in Sagittarius, perhaps this is a great time when Mercury goes into that second house to think about your finances, but not just on the mundane or the worldly level of, money coming in, money coming out, but more of the law of attraction kind of a way, more of, what is my greatest, wildest dream when it comes to money? Not winning the lottery or anything like that, but, where would I be? Where would I live if I had the money, enough money to do so? What would I be doing? What would I be wearing? Would I be wearing different types of clothing? Would I be living in a different type of environment, a different climate, a different country? And just let your imagination run wild. And, Mercury, I think of the mind, but really it's the consciousness at the end of the day. It's not just gray matter. It's something that transcends the dumb flesh. Nothing wrong with flesh, but in and of itself, it has to be animated with something more than that, doesn't it? And so just some ideas of kind of taking it to the next level when Mercury goes into that second house. On the 5th, we have a solar eclipse, 15 degrees of Capricorn in the second house of earned income. And solar eclipses are new moons times 3. And besides being more powerful, let me say what powerful means. Powerful meaning that they have a greater, I guess you could say a greater impact, but also a longer impact. And so the reverberations felt by this could be, felt in February, felt even before January 5th even, depending on the individual. Sometimes that has happened. People have noted life changes. I think that happened to me too, before the actual date. So these are about changes, and they're connected to the nodes, Cancer and Capricorn. And for you, this axis, or I said axis, I meant axis, are the money houses, because Capricorn is the second house, and then you have Cancer as the 8th house. So this is a story for the next year and a half, Sag, about money. And this could be shared resources, could be inheritances, it could be that I'm talking eighth house stuff now. In this particular case, we're talking about the money that you earn, but I actually broaden that. I just talk about money you attract, and it doesn't necessarily have to be from, I think gifts can fall into this house, even though maybe technically it should be the 8th house. I've had that happen with another transit of mine, so I'm looking at it from my perspective. But in any case, money. And with the solar eclipse, it can sometimes be that money, like new income streams, expansion of income streams, maybe on the mental level, with Mercury having just gone into that house, where you have ideas, multiple ideas. And these ideas, and you could call them, seeds, planting seeds, but it's really kind of faded because the eclipses are happening anyway, whether you're, paying attention or not. And because they do speak to change, and change will happen whether the person wants it or not. That's one of the reasons why it's great to focus on those houses where the eclipses occur to kind of get on top of things, so to speak. Because, and especially, this is to me one of the greatest gifts of astrology, of the predictive side, which I'm not really even that interested in this part of astrology. I'm more interested in the analysis of the personality, the psychology of the signs, if you will. But in terms of predictive astrology, you can't guarantee anything even with a predictive astrology. But the themes that present themselves, if you're aware that your financial life will change in the next year and a half, or there's maybe a good possibility, you can brace yourself for that. But I don't mean that in a bad way, because even if good things happen, you may be kind of freaked out. You may be saying to yourself, what's going on here? If all of a sudden you start to earn major money when you've been just scraping by for years on end. Everyone assumes that they will just handle it so wonderfully when they, have an uptick in income. But that's not true. All we have to do is look at people who are lottery winners. And some of the people who, went from having nothing to having, millions can sometimes squander it very quickly because they did not feel worthy of it, or it was too much of a shift. And they couldn't, they're energetically, they couldn't make that shift. So they kept living with that, what I would say is a poverty consciousness, and kind of squandering their money, not respecting it, and not being intelligent about it, which is a sign, when you want to learn about money, then it shows that you respect it, but also that you believe that you're deserving of it and deserving to keep it. So you're going to do everything you can to learn about it. And so anyway, it's just something that you might want to consider, because Pluto is in the second house, has been there for 10 years, will be there another 5 years. And this is a perfect example for you Sun and Sagittarius people. Aspirational. When I found out that Pluto was going into the second house, I was like, uh-oh. But again, this was my particular solar second house. Maybe for those who have Sagittarius rising, it has been a tougher road to hoe. And I've read comment after comment by Sagittarians who have said that they've had a lot of problems in the last, even before Saturn went into Sagittarius. So maybe around the time when Saturn went into Capricorn in 2008, about almost 11 years ago. So if that resonates with you, do you have Sagittarius rising? Because I could see on the mundane level that could produce a lot of upheaval in one's financial situation. And in some cases, you may have lost everything and had to rebuild. Again, Pluto is the sign of transformation, death. I think death, of course, is the god of the underworld, and rebirth. And, the Tower card in the Tarot, that should be, that should probably be Pluto. And I think it's Mars, which is the other ruler of Scorpio with Pluto. So who knows? The Judgment card is associated with Pluto. But, Pluto in a money house is associated with wealth. And so that's the exciting thing about it. So never question whether or not, if you have Pluto transiting the second house, whether it be in your natal chart or in your solar chart, if it's possible to attain wealth. And wealth is a relative term. There are billionaires and there are people who might have $100,000 in the bank and feel like the richest person in the world. And, have, $10,000 and feel very wealthy. So anyway, there's a lot going on in that second house. The South Node recently entered there. There is Saturn in the second house. So be very mindful about the issue of money, Sag. And Sag is a sign that loves to spend money, usually, unless you have a lot of Capricorn placements, or maybe the moon in Cancer or something like that, or Cancer rising, you might be a little bit more conservative. But in general, Sag, being ruled by Jupiter, spends money like water sometimes. And this is going to make you more conservative about money. Capricorn is a sign that's about saving, conserving. And that's what conservative means. So on the 6th, Uranus turns direct in Aries. So now all of the personal planets are, it's not a personal planet, it's actually a generational planet, but now all of the planets are direct. I love when this happens because it feels like we are moving 100% forward. You know, that there's nothing retrograding at the moment. We'll have this sensation for 2 months. Of course, there are the shadow periods before the actual retrogrades that will kind of could possibly figure into things, but technically we have a 2-month window where everything is direct. And the nice thing about this is that Uranus is in a fellow fire sign. So it's a positive energy flow. And the 5th house, I think, is a good place for Uranus because Uranus is about innovation and surprises. And the 5th house has a lighthearted feel to it because it's love and it is creativity. So having Uranus in the 5th can really spark your creativity if you're an artistic type of individual. And this could make you very inventive. And when it comes to love, you could have somebody come into your life. I mean, this has been an influence. It isn't just starting up, but I'm just kind of reviewing what Uranus in the 5th means, where you meet somebody very suddenly, and it could be an important love in your life. And so it can be like an exciting electric time. Uranus is associated with electricity, where you feel that even like intuition is associated with this planet. So, you know, intuiting this, having that kind of telepathy between you and someone you're falling in love with, and knowing that they are the one, being able to kind of sense that. And so let me think if there's anything else. And well, you know, the 5th house is the house of fun, you know, like any kind of pastimes, hobbies, amusements. And you do have the sun going into the 3rd house, which, you know, the sun's going into Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus. So there could be something with the internet that maybe is like a hobby and turns into a money-making opportunity somehow in the next month, or at least the seeds are planted in that area. So, and that would be more like February and onwards. On the 7th, Venus goes into Sagittarius. Oh, your sign. And so Venus in the 1st house. Magnetism. You know, Venus is the attractor. And so even on the physical level, because the 1st house can be the body, you may come across as more physically appealing. And there may be no real, I was going to say there may be nothing to back that up with. You may not have done anything special, but you're just being seen in this light. Although you may choose to partake in some kind of beauty treatment, you may decide that that is something that you want to do, and it's something that brings you pleasure. But speaking of pleasure, I mean, Venus is associated with pleasure, so this may be a time when you just feel the desire to pamper yourself in some way or in multiple ways. And I think, too, being a money magnet, because in a general sense, you know, Venus into any house can be connected to money. And in the 1st house, it's connected to your persona. So if you are selling yourself in some way, this can actually give you monetary gain. It's great for people that need to, I was going to say audition. I guess you could be auditioning for some sort of, play, but I was thinking of auditioning for a job. I meant interviewing. I guess that's a form of audition, isn't it? So things like that. So it's just a very pleasant transit for Sag in general. And, just bringing harmony to your life and to your sense of being. On the 20th, the sun goes into Aquarius. This is a friendly angle. Sextile, third house, house of communication, teaching and learning. It's nice to have the sun in an air sign in this air house, which is, Gemini's house. So this is very good for mental pursuits, writing, and things of that nature. On the 21st, we have a lunar eclipse. This is the last one of that series of Leo and Aquarius. This one will be at 0 degrees of Leo in the 9th house of foreign travel, higher learning. There may be some kind of connection with the sun going into that third house. Maybe you're getting hired for some kind of teaching position, and it's corresponding with receiving your teaching degree. The 9th house can be university level learning. And, the lunar eclipse can be like this grand finale. But sometimes it can be something that just kind of comes to fruition or an end, and it isn't really something that you are intending. So it's possible that for some people, you decide to leave a university or something happens where you must leave. Almost like you're forced to. And what I would say with that is that it could have something to do, I'm just speculating, since January is a time when it's usually the beginning of a new semester. It could be that financial aid doesn't come through, and so you're not allowed to matriculate or complete your admissions. And so you were planning on going to school and you can't. If something like that happens, obviously that could just be a temporary blip. But you never know. This is one of the things that I would encourage people to do based upon my own experiences. I was just kind of thinking about some of my adventures with certain things, and with education in particular, going back to college in my 30s and going down a certain path that I was really thinking was for me. But really, I didn't really have that vision at the deepest level. And I was kind of just fumbling around for anything that felt kind of like this would be something I should do. And it's better than nothing. I mean, having some goal is better than not having a goal. But if the universe kicks you out of someplace, whether you get laid off of a job or you get, you're not allowed to go to college for a particular semester because you don't have the funding, really think about whether or not this is the right place for you. Because the university will always be there, but there may be something else that you want to do that you're too afraid to pursue. And maybe the universe is kind of nudging you in that direction. That's what I say about these eclipses, is that they may be nudging us in a different direction. And sometimes with the lunar eclipses, it's an ending that is meant to have you begin somewhere else. And, it's at 0 degrees of Leo. So there is that sense of the new possibilities even within that ending. The lunar eclipse, that could affect somebody who's traveling in a foreign country. Maybe you have to unexpectedly cut your trip short for some reason. Again, it may feel like you're being thwarted or something, but you're not. Trust in the synchronicity. On the 24th, Mercury is going into Aquarius, so it's joining the sun in that mental house, and you're going to want to communicate. You may want to go on YouTube and spout your opinions, or, write essays, write a blog, and just allow people to know where you're coming from. Again, you may parlay this into some sort of money-making opportunity at some point in the next month or so. But that's actually for February. I'm going to end it there, and I wish you, I should say, for those people who are listening in December, I wish you a wonderful holiday season, and for everyone else, I hope that the new year is a great one for you. Take care. Bye.